In this section, we're going to find the slope and the intercept by putting equations in slope-intercept form. Remember that that's the y equals mx plus b form, where the slope is the number m and the y-intercept is the point 0, b. So, for each of these lines, or for each of these equations, in example 1, we're going to find the slope and the y-intercept. Now remember, the slope is the number that is the coefficient of x. So in the first equation, the slope is 1/2. Not 1/2 x, but just 1/2. The y-intercept is the point 0, -3, since -3 can be written as plus -3. In b, the slope is the coefficient of x, which is -3, and the y-intercept is 0, 2. Remember when you're writing a point to write parentheses around the coordinates. All right, and in C, y equals 5 plus 2x. Remember, that's the same thing as y equals 2x plus 5. You can change the order of an addition. So what that means is our slope is the coefficient of x, which is 2, and the y-intercept is 0, 5. In D, it looks like we don't see a slope. However, remember that -x plus 4 is the same thing as -1x plus 4. We just don't see that 1 when it's in simplified form. So our slope is -1. Here, be extra careful. The slope is not a variable. The slope is the number that's the coefficient, so it's -1. And the y-intercept is 0, 4. In E, we see y equals 7x, but we don't see plus anything. That means 0 must have been added to it, so our slope is 7, and the y-intercept is the point 0, 0. In F, you don't see an x term. So what that means is that y equals 0 times x, which is 0, plus 6. So our slope is 0, and y-intercept is the point 0, 6. All right, so in some cases, we're going to have to transform our equation into slope-intercept form. That means we're going to have to solve it for y, to put it in y equals mx plus b form. So in A, in order to isolate y, we need to subtract 3x from both sides. And instead of actually subtracting 3x, I'm going to think of it as adding -3x. So we have the x term coming first. That way it's in that standard y equals mx plus b form. Next, we're going to divide both sides by 2, and division distributes to that addition. So y equals -3/2 x plus 4. That means that the slope is 4, and the y-intercept is the point, I'm sorry, I misspoke there. My bad. The slope is not 4. Sorry, the slope is -3/2. The slope is that coefficient of x. And the y-intercept is the point 0, 4. All right, let's check out another example. In B, we have an equation x minus 5y is equal to 15. So in order to solve for y here, we need to subtract x or add -x to both sides, and then divide through by -5. And we need to remember to distribute that to both of the terms on the right side of the equation. That gives us y equals positive 1/5, because remember that coefficient of the x is -1. So -1 divided by -5 is positive 1/5. And then plus 15 over -5 is plus -3 or -3. So that means that our slope is the coefficient of x, which is positive 1/5, and our y-intercept is the point 0, -3. All right, let's check out one that's a little bit different. In C, in order to solve this one for y, we've got some distributive property to do first. So we're going to distribute that multiplication times 5 over the x plus 1, and that gives us 5x plus 5. And then adding 2 to both sides, we get 5x plus 7. So our slope is the coefficient of x, that's 5, and the y-intercept is the point 0, 7. All right, let's check out one more that's similar. For this one, we have this, and this is, by the way, the point-slope form of the equation of a line, which we're going to get introduced to in the next section. So again, we need to use the distributive property, multiply that -3/4 times both terms in the parentheses. So, and I'm just going to write out that step where we distribute first before I actually do the multiplication. So on the right side, we've got -3/4 x minus -3/4 times 8, so that's plus 3/4 times 8. Now remember, 1/4 of 8 is 2, so 3/4 must be 6. And then we have y plus 3 left over here. Last thing to do, subtract 3 from both sides of the equation, and that's going to give us y equals -3/4 x plus 3. So here our slope is -3/4, and the y-intercept is the point 0, 3. Right, that's pretty much it for this section.